Nana Shastra Vicharanai Kanipano Sadharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanya Karo Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nandena Mataliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyago Shri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyago Shri Jiva Gopalako. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they're honored all over the three worlds, and they're worth taking shelter of because they're absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschyatyade Tarne Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchikalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha Parijanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ke. Yes, devotees, so here we are. And we've just begun chapter 13 of the Nectar of Devotion, further aspects of transcendental service, which is examining in more detail the five main angas or types of devotional service. And just to get us off on the right footing again, I'm going to read the verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Verses, it's actually 3 or 2.5 perhaps, which are giving, or in which Srila Rupa Goswami is giving his precise understandings of what are those five most special services. Shraddha Visheshata Priti Srimurtir Angri Sevane Srimad Bhagavatartanam Asvado Rasikai Saha Sajatiya Shaye Snigte Sadho Sangha Swatovare Nama Sankirtanam Shriman Mathura Mandale Stiti. Excuse me. Translation. With love and full faith, one should worship the lotus feet of the deity. One should taste the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of pure devotees. And one should associate with the devotees who are more advanced than oneself and who are endowed with a similar type of affection for the Lord. One should congregationally chant the holy name of the Lord and reside in Vrindavan. Excuse me. Minor disturbance down there. Yes, so we read through last night the basic description of each of those 5 special forms of devotional service, and from the later part of the 12th chapter, and then we moved on to the 13th chapter, and we read the description of how, or the potency, you could say, how powerful is service, the first category, service to the deity, very special. Actually, before we go into it this evening, there is a special question for those of you doing Bhakti Shastri. There's a special question here, right from the very beginning of this chapter, where the 5 main forms of devotional service are listed out again. So this is a verse. You can note down the verse number so you can refer to it afterwards if you're doing the Bhakti Shastri. It is Caitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 22, verse 129. Madhya Lila 22, 129. Here is the translation. Well, actually, let me read the Bengali. This is Lord Chaitanya speaking to Sanatana Goswami. Sakala sadhana shreshta, e pancha anga, Krishna prema janmaya e panchera alpa sangha. These 5 limbs of devotional service are the best of all. Even a slight performance of these 5 awakens love for Krishna. So please note that, because you're going to be asked a question about that. Aha. So, right, so there we were, just mentioning what we discussed last night, which was about deity worship. We did mention how Srila Rupa Goswami has written a definitive type of verse, a verse which is really helping us understand the special nature of each of the 5 angas, or special types of devotional service, or you can say special rules of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And we mentioned how the verse in regard to deity worship, on the surface of it, if you don't know what's going on, you would think that whoever has written this doesn't like deity worship. He sincerely feels you shouldn't do it because it'll be detrimental to you. Because if you see the beautiful form of the deity, you'll lose interest in all your so-called loving relationships in this material world, so-called society, friendship, and so-called love, and you'll just fall in love with Krishna. And in this way manifest a symptom of bhava, very important symptom of bhava, extreme detachment, like total detachment. Yeah. Let me just read that verse again. It's really one of my favorites, I must say. Oh, my friend, if you desire to enjoy with your friends and relatives, then do not look upon the form of the Lord called Govinda, wandering near Keshi Ghat on the bank of the Yamuna River, with a slight smile on his lips, posed with 3 bends in his body, eyes glancing everywhere in a crooked fashion, flute placed on his red lower lip like a tender bud, and shining gloriously with a peacock feather. Yes, so if you want to carry on enjoying in just material relationships of different types, don't see the deity. This is the idea. Don't see the deity, because the deity is so captivating and has such transcendental potency that you may forget everything and really lose interest absolutely in everything else. Right. As Prabhupada said, this will save everyone from such unwanted activities as going to clubs, cinemas, and dancing parties, and smoking, drinking, etc. All such nonsense will be forgotten if one stresses the worship of the deities at home or in the temple too. Yeah, that's for sure. All right. Now, let me just point out another point, devotees. There is a special question in regard to this also. Oh, yes, we have many special questions. This is in regard to where we just read just a minute ago about householders doing deity worship and then getting saved from all those different unwanted activities. So the verse which is quoted is actually Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, Chapter 2, verse 8, which our devotees here in the Radharadhanath temple, I think, are chanting every morning. Is it? Maybe, maybe not. Dharma swanustita pumsam, vishvaksena katasuya, notpadayed yadi ratim, shrama evahi kevalam. The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. So, the question, you know what the question you must answer here is? What is the verse number of that Srimad Bhagavatam verse? Well, as we said, it's Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, Chapter 2, verse 8. You better remember that. I think you better look it up and just go over it. So, okay. So there are some things then giving special emphasis to the importance and the potency, the result of worshipping the deity very nicely. Now, so in our Nectar of Devotion, the actual book, this part, well, the part which we just looked at again just now about deity, deity worship, in this chapter 13, it is verses, what is it now? Deity worship is 1, 2, and 3. And now, verses, it looks like verses 4 and 5 are emphasizing or focusing on reading Srimad Bhagavatam. As you may recall, reading Srimad Bhagavatam in the company of, oh no, that's associating with devotees. Well, yeah, in the company of pure devotees. Reading Srimad Bhagavatam in the company of pure devotees. And again, as we mentioned, this this particular anga of devotional service, the verse which is focusing on it, bringing out the glory of it, is also in reverse. It's an apparent criticism. So listen to this. Listen to this, it's quite. Oh, idiots! How unfortunate you are. I think that you must have been hearing all the syllables, one by one, of the verses of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, because now your ears are denouncing the most auspicious goals of Dharma, Artha, and Kama, and even decrying the fourth goal of liberation, which is most blissful. Yeah. Okay, anyway, there's a different translation I've read. Yeah, but anyway, this is nice. So here, just like the other verse, the verse in regard to deity worship, it's a person telling his friend that, don't go look at Govinda. So that friend, the friend who's speaking to the friend, is a materialist, obviously, and he's speaking to his friend who has also been or is also a materialist, trying to save him from Krishna consciousness. This verse is very similar. It is spoken obviously by a big materialist who can now see that some of his friends, a group of his friends, has been hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, and so he denounces them. Oh, idiots! Oh, idiots! How unfortunate you are! Just see, it's really around the other way. Yeah, because now I can understand you've been hearing the Bhagavatam, because now when you speak, you are explaining how Dharma, Artha, Kama, and even Moksha, the four special goals of at least so many people who are following some sort of Vedic path. But now his friends his so-called unfortunate friends are discussing these things and pointing out how useless they are, and they're even decrying liberation. Decrying is very strong. They're saying, this is terrible. Oh no, don't do this. Keep away from liberation, impersonal liberation. So the speaker can understand, in order to have reached the state of consciousness, they must have been hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, because you can't really reach any other state, reach this state of consciousness of just totally rejecting dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, materialistic religiosity, material advancement, material enjoyment, and then liberation. You can't renounce them so strongly unless you've had contact with something like the Bhagavatam. Other literatures you might read, they might make some points about dharma, artha, kama, moksha, even liberation is not so good. But to bring you to the point where you completely just give up those things, throw them away, throw them out the window. The only thing which can influence a person that strongly is Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, so again, the symptom of bhava, because don't forget, the idea is that one of the ideas is that if a person performs even one of these 5 activities, and even perhaps not that nicely, but that person can come to the level of what Prabhupada, the way Prabhupada phrases it in Nectar of Devotion, is ecstatic love for Krishna, or bhava. Right. So they are exhibiting that extreme detachment. Just like what the fellow in the first verse is afraid will happen to his friend if he sees Govinda, that same extreme detachment, may or will manifest in his heart. You know that story from Ramanujacharya of, I forget the name of the person, was it Kuresha? Actually, I can't remember. But this one fellow was on his way to be married. The wedding procession was going down the road in Sri Rangam. And this fellow was so, infatuated with his bride. He was just looking at her as they walked down the road. He's just looking at her. He's not even seeing where he's going. He's just looking at her, just so captivated. And Ramanuja saw that, and he thought, wow, this poor fellow, I've got to help him. So right in the middle of the wedding procession, he walked up to him and said, listen, you like to see beauty, right? Oh, yes. Just come with me. Just come with me. I will show you a person who's even more beautiful. So in the middle of the wedding procession, he took this young man to the Sri Rangam temple and showed him Ranganath. And that young man left everything in the middle of all that. In the middle of all that, he just left everything and joined Ramanujacharya. Haribol. Okay. Well, let's just see. Srila Prabhupada in the 5th paragraph, let's just read a little bit about of what Srila Prabhupada says. It's very powerful. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that unless one has the ability to throw out, just like garbage, the fruit of results of ritualistic ceremonies, economic development, and becoming one with the Supreme or salvation, one cannot understand Srimad Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam deals exclusively with devotional service. Only one who studies Srimad Bhagavatam in the spirit of renunciation can understand the pastimes of the Lord, which are described in the 10th canto. In other words, one should not try to understand the topics of the 10th canto, such as the Rasa Leela or love dance, unless he has spontaneous attraction for Srimad Bhagavatam. One must be situated in pure devotional service before he can relish Srimad Bhagavatam as it is. And devotees, believe it or not, here is another question. Yes, okay. So here is, what is it now? Srimad Bhagavatam 11:8-17 purport. 11:8-17 purport. If one becomes attached to the sense gratification of materialistic music and songs, one will develop all the features of material entanglement. One should hear Bhagavad Gita or the songs sung by the Supreme Lord. So you're going to get a question on that part of that purport, which we just read, 11:8-17. Now, in the following, let's see, where are we? In the following paragraph, number 6, Srila Prabhupada gives an explanation of what has been done, the approach of the presentation in these first 2 verses. Let me just read a little. In the above 2 verses of Rupa Goswami, there are some metaphorical analogies that indirectly condemn the association of materialistic society, friendship, and love. People are generally attracted to these things, and they make elaborate arrangements and strong endeavors to develop these material contaminations. But to see the Sri Murtis, the deities of Radha and Krishna, is to forget such endeavors for material association. Rupa Goswami composed his verse in such a way that he was seemingly praising the material association of friendship and love, and was condemning the audience of Sri Murti or Govinda. This metaphorical analogy is constructed in such a way that things which seem to be praised are condemned, and things which are to be condemned are praised. Okay, well, yeah, that's not very well put. Things which seem to be condemned. Anyway, all right. The actual import of the verse is that one must see the form of Govinda if one at all wants to forget the nonsense of material friendship, love, and society. Jiva Goswami says, this is a praise of the Bhagavatam, referring to the last verse we just read. This is a praise of the Bhagavatam using the device of criticism. This and the previous verse are examples of the literary ornament called aprastuta prashamsa, conveying the subject by something that is not the subject. Yes. Okay, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Let us move on a bit here to paragraph number 7, in which the subject is associating with advanced devotees. But having said that, it's not just advanced devotees, but it's advanced devotees, you could say, who are in the same line as yourself, which the implication of which is they will have the same perspectives on Krishna consciousness that you have, or you should have. The book's not on the floor, is it? Okay, no problem. All right, so now, so this is the verse then, paragraph number 7. Let's read the verse. And it's kind of extraordinary, little unusual verse. It's not opposed, it's not criticizing, it's just kind of expressed in an unusual way. Ever since I saw a certain person whose body was washed with his own tears, whose hairs were standing on end, and who stumbled around with a joyous heart while quivering to the extreme, my mind has for some reason become so attached to the form of Krishna that I have no attachment to my family. Now you might think, gosh, okay, this is somewhat different to how things have been presented in Nectar of Devotion. According, to the direct translation, the person, the speaker, is seeing a devotee who's overwhelmed with ecstasy from having seen Krishna. And seeing that devotee, the person now, as the verse says, I have no attachment to my family. It's again the same symptom of bhava, of extreme detachment. However, having said that, the translation in Nectar of Devotion, it could be taken like that. Anyway, although it's a bit it doesn't really bring out the point of associating with a devotee. And due to that association, the person, the speaker, has changed. According to Jiva Goswami, in his purport to this verse, according to Jiva Goswami, in his purport to this verse, he says the devotee is seeing Krishna by the mercy and association of a devotee. All right, then paragraph number 8, regarding the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Yeah, so, I mean, it's understandable how the translation and Nectar of Devotion, or we should say perhaps the editing of it, it may not bring out the point so clearly, but the idea is that the devotee is seeing Krishna and becoming overwhelmed through having had the association of another devotee. Okay, anyway, so here we go. Paragraph number 8, chanting the holy name of the Lord. And the verse is, well, let's just read the verse from Nectar of Devotion. Well, let's have a look here. Okay. It is said that saints have been able to hear the vibrating strings of the veena in the hands of Narada, who's always singing the glories of Lord Krishna. Now, this same sound vibration has entered my ears, and I'm always feeling the presence of the Supreme Personality. Gradually, I'm becoming bereft of all attachment for material enjoyment. So that's nice, that's clear. The way Jiva Goswami translates it, Krishna, my heart has become completely blissful, fixed in an unprecedented state of prema. So the mind has given up all attachment to external objects through kirtan, through the kirtan. And now paragraph 9. This is about the last one, which is living in Mathura or Vrindavan. So, okay. Yeah. Okay, anyway. Let's read the verse from Nectar of Devotion, the translation in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is somewhat different. I remember the Lord standing by the banks of the Yamuna River, so beautiful amid the Kadamba trees, where many birds are chirping in the gardens. And these impressions are always giving me transcendental realization of beauty and bliss. And it's interesting. Prabhupada says, just immediately afterwards, this feeling about Mathura Mandala and Vrindavan, described by Rupa Goswami, can actually be felt even by non-devotees. The places in the 168 square mile district of Mathura are so beautifully situated on the banks of the river Yamuna that anyone who goes there will never want to return to this material world. Yes. All these qualities, or these statements by Rupa Goswami are factually realized descriptions of Mathura and Vrindavan. Yes, so in other words, that place, just the place itself, is imbued with amazing transcendental potency. And, like we've mentioned, the potency is so great that, at least in some cases, The potency is sufficient to bring even a neophyte immediately to the level of bhava, or the beginnings of actual perfection. Aha. So now the next paragraph, number 10, is important because we've just read all these verses and all the other different things last night about how powerful these 5 activities and what they can do to you and what they have done to other people. But we who have already done all of those 5 things, and I think many or most, if not all of us, at least most, have actually done all of those things many times. But we are not on the level of bhava. I don't know about you, but I can give you a written guarantee that I'm not. So what's going on? Could it be that what has been said is actually like exaggeration? This is the question or doubt which is addressed in the 10th paragraph, which begins, in these statements about devotional service. Let's just read through it. In these statements about devotional service, sometimes it may appear that the results have been overestimated, but actually there is no overestimation. Some devotees, as revealed scriptures give evidence, have had immediate results by such association, although this is not possible for all. For example, the Kumars immediately became devotees simply by smelling the incense in the temple. Bilvamangal Thakur simply heard about Krishna and then immediately gave up his beautiful girlfriend and started out for Mathura and Vrindavan, where he became a perfect Vaishnava. So these statements are not overestimations, nor are they stories. They are actual facts, but are true for certain devotees and do not necessarily apply to all. These descriptions, even if considered overestimations, must be taken as they are in order to divert our attention from the fleeting material beauty to the eternal beauty of Krishna consciousness. And for a person who is already in contact with Krishna consciousness, the described results are not unusual. Hare Krishna. And their devotees, it's a little interesting, it's a little unusual how this chapter has been structured, in that is the end of the discussion of these 5 main angas of devotional service. And now what comes, the last 3 paragraphs, is a discussion about varnashram and how varnashram is not really required for Krishna consciousness. Yeah, so And it's kind of, on Monday, when we go into the discussion about jnana and vairagya, knowledge and renunciation, then and how they are also not important factors in Krishna consciousness, although there's sort of a place for them. It may become apparent that these last 3 paragraphs would probably be better off if they were part of chapter 14. The interesting point in that regard is that from chapter 6 till the end of chapter 14, as these things appear in Nectar of Devotion, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that is one chapter. That is one chapter. All these divisions here into these various, several different chapters, they've just been done. To some, anyway, it's just been done somewhat arbitrarily, really. So now these last 3 paragraphs are really not related to the discussion about the 5 topmost angas of pure devotional service. But anyway, that's okay. It's all part of the important subject matters that we are discussing here. So, let's just have a look here. What are we doing? So Srila Prabhupada makes some points about this here, like in paragraph 11, the third to last, that some people say, basically, that if you follow Varnashram, you will gradually rise to the perfections reached by practicing devotional service. So some people say that. But great authorities, and particularly as Prabhupada says here, Lord Caitanya, they don't accept that. Lord Caitanya condemned this idea while he was talking with Ramananda Roy. And Lord Caitanya said that Varnashram is simply external, and karma and jnana are also external, or they're definitely external to some degree, although they're important for people who are right in the beginning stages. So it's similar with Varnashram. And in the paragraph 12, second to last, Krishna says to Uddhava, one should execute the prescribed duties of Varna and Ashram as long as he has not developed spontaneous attachment for hearing about my pastimes and activities. Yeah. So, as Prabhupada says right at the end, all such activities, Varnashram, are recommended in the scriptures only to bring one to the point of Krishna consciousness. And similarly with jnana and vairagya. Anyway, that's sort of by the way. But on Monday we'll also look at that, and then we'll go through chapter 14. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna.